Hello, I'm Steve Shaw, National Coordinator of Football Officials and Secretary of Rules Editor for the NCAA. And today we're continuing our series of media videos for 2024, and we're going to be focused on game action from Week 7. Now, we all know football is a very dynamic game, and occasionally specific situations arise where committing a foul can give a team an advantage. And a guiding principle in our football playing rules committee is there should be no profit when a team fouls. Now, we released an interpretation this week to eliminate a potential clock advantage for committing a substitution foul. And specifically, this will take away any gain the defense may receive if they violate the substitution rule. Now, we're going to talk about and illustrate this new interpretation in play 1 of our video. So let's get straight on into our plays.
As referenced in our opening, our first play is a 2-play vignette. Now, the first play illustrates a current playing rules interpretation that we have. We're late in the game. We see here that defenders, they just grab and hold all the receivers, not letting them out on their routes to disrupt the play and ultimately burn time off the clock. Now, the current interpretation takes these holding fouls, convert them to unsportsmanlike conduct, and we penalize that. And you can tell these players are blatantly committing a foul to gain a time advantage. But more importantly, we're going to reset the game clock to the time of the snap, and the clock will not start until the next snap. Now, as we look at a play from our past weekend's games, and let me say the crew handled the play according to our rule, but we see we're late in the game, the offense is snapping with 10 seconds remaining, and they're going to throw a pass that is broken up, and the game clock stops at 6 seconds. And as we go back and take a look at the All-22 camera, we see that the defense has 12 players on the field, and these players all participate in the play. Now, our new interpretation is that after the 2-minute timeout in either half, if the defense commits a substitution foul, which they did here, and have 12 or more players on the field and they participate in the down, then officials will penalize the defense for the substitution foul, but at the option of the offended team, will reset the game clock back to the time displayed at the snap. The game clock will then restart on the next snap. So here, after the 5-yard penalty on the defense from the previous spot, we would reset the clock to 10 seconds, and it would start on the next snap. And the offense would get to repeat third down. Now, if the 12th defender was attempting to exit but was still on the field of play at the snap and had no influence on the play, then the normal substitution penalty would be enforced with no clock adjustment. But I think we'd all agree here that these 12 players did participate in the play. And this new interpretation, it really eliminates any potential clock advantage by the defense for having 12 or more players on the field. Play 2 is an example of an act that is considered a flagrant unsportsmanlike conduct foul and requires ejection. Now, we see a fairly benign play, but we're getting some additional action by receiver number 1 and defensive back number 1, and the receiver is going to spit in his opponent's face. Now, we do get a flag down, and we get a good announcement by our referee.
Flagrant unsportsmanlike conduct, offense number 1 for spitting on an opponent. Number 1 is ejected from the ballgame.
And note the word ejected here. When a player is disqualified after targeting, they're eliminated from playing in the game, but they're allowed to stay in the team area. But if a player is ejected, not only are they not allowed to play in the game, but they must leave the team area and the playing enclosure and remain in the locker room under team supervision. Play 3, the offense is going to run a gadget play, and it really has a couple components to it. Now, first, the quarterback takes the snap, passes backward out to number 15, and then 15 throws long to number 44 in the end zone for a touchdown. Now, by rule, the offense is allowed only one forward pass during the down, but the first pass here is clearly backwards, so they meet this requirement. But the other part of the play is legal, but something we rarely see. As we look at the shift, number 44, who caught the touchdown pass, is actually going to be the center. He snaps the ball. Now, we've received questions, can the center be an eligible pass receiver? But as we look at the alignment here at the snap, the offense meets all the requirements for a legal formation. They have no more than 4 backs. They have 5 players on the line, numbered 50 to 79, and number 44 is on the end of the line with an eligible number. So the formation is legal, and number 44 is an eligible receiver because he's on the end of his line and he has an eligible number. So yes, if done properly, the center can be an eligible receiver. Play 4, we're late in the game, and the kickers are going to try an onside kick. Now, it's a little bit of a different onside kick, but it's very effective. The ball seems to curve, is first touched by the receivers, and after a scramble, the kicking team is going to recover it just beyond midfield. Now, as we go back and take a look at the kick, this is considered a legal drop kick, and by rule, a kickoff must either be a place kick or a drop kick. We're very familiar with the place kick. It's usually on a tee, but it can be on the ground touching the tee or just on the ground by itself. But a drop kick, which is used here by rule, is a kick when a player drops the ball and kicks it as it touches the ground. Now, if the kicker drops it, lets it bounce back up in the air, and then kicks it, it's an illegal kick. But here, this was executed properly. And as a reminder, a free kick after a safety is like a kickoff. It can be a place kick or a drop kick, but it can also be a punt following a safety. Play 5, we're late in the game. The defense is up by 2 points, and that's going to be important here. And we see a deep pass that's intercepted by number 1 in the field of play. He goes back into his own end zone. He seems to look as if he's going to take a knee, and then a teammate encourages him to run and get it out of the end zone, and he does. Now, we've received a number of questions. What would have happened if the player took a knee here? Would it have been a safety? Now, we know it's a safety if a player possesses a ball and if it's declared dead in his own end zone. And a 2-point safety here would have tied the game. But there's a momentum rule that is an exception to the safety. And it says it's not a safety if a player between their own team's 5-yard line and goal line, if they intercept a pass and their original momentum carries them into their own end zone and the ball remains behind that team's goal line and is declared dead there, then it is not a safety and the ball is going to belong to that team at the spot where that player gained possession. So had the player taken a knee in his own end zone, the ball would have come back out to the point of the interception about the 3-yard line, and his team would have had the ball there. And we can see the back judge, he does a good job. He gets his beanbag out and he marks the spot, that momentum spot, in case it is needed. Our last play this week is in response to questions about pass interference fouls in the end zone and how is the penalty enforced. Now, as review, if we have defensive pass interference that occurs less than 15 yards downfield from the previous spot, the penalty is enforced at the spot of the foul. And if the foul occurs 15 or more yards downfield, the penalty is a maximum of 15 yards enforced from the previous spot. And as we get near the goal line and we have defensive pass interference in the end zone, if we're snapping on or inside the 17-yard line and outside the 2, if the defensive pass interference is in the end zone, then the penalty is from the previous spot and we'll put the ball at the 2-yard line. So on this play, we see we're snapping inside the 17, we're at the 11, and there's clear defensive pass interference in the end zone, and we're going to enforce this penalty at the 2. But it's also important to note that the rule says from the previous spot to the 2-yard line. So even though the defensive pass interference occurred in the left corner of the end zone, the snap was from the right hash mark, so the ball will be placed on the 2-yard line from the previous spot, which was the right hash, so it's first and goal from the 2-yard line on the right hash. Well, that's it for our plays this week, and we appreciate your time invested in this video. Please keep your comments and questions coming. They're helpful, and best of luck to all this week.